Good morning. Good morning. It's Sunday. Oh, look at my love bug. Here, let's move this. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we go over the week's transits, and then I do a tarot card and angel spread for each sign. So that's what we're going to do today. This is my little love, Lulu. She's just moved in about a little over a month ago. She's a 5-year-old. Oh, good. Someone's in the room. Hello. I'm just trying to kill time, letting people join the room. Again, what I'm going to do today is go through the transits. Hi, Small. How you feeling? I know I got, I think we had a huge breakthrough this week with her. I think she knows she's home. I think she knows I'm her person. I can't explain it, but she's just been so cute. So let everyone see you because we're still in the contest. And people are going to guess and see what breed you are. Look at that gorgeous face. I know. She's really a little love. I looked up her name on the internet, and Lulu means pearl, something precious and born from pressure. And surely she was. So I'm going to let the room kind of fill up before I start the proceedings. And while I do, I'm going to let you know this is one of the weird, interesting signs. I think you guys know that Lucky passed away on October 4th. Well, Lulu used to live in Las Vegas, and her owner died on October 4th, 2024. I've been kind of reviewing the signs and things that have been happening lately, especially because of the Neptune Saturn conjunction. For me, this is on my 12th house. Oh, look at her little. And so it's really bringing up a lot of history, soul's history. And I've been, really kind of reviewing the weird domino effect of things. Oh, she just loves to be scratched. She loves to have her belly rubbed. So, isn't that weird that her guardian passed away and then Lucky passed away a year later? I'm very blessed that she's in the house. I love her. I'm going to put her down now, and I'm going to start talking about the transits and get the show on the road. Okay. Again, when I started this broadcast years ago, I was doing it in whole sign. I got to tell you, the more and more I look at Placidus, the more it really, really resonates with me. She's so smart that I think that was the problem, really, because we took her this week to have her teeth cleaned. And I say we because her foster mom did that with me, and we didn't get it accomplished. Unfortunately, they gave her back to us with half a clean mouth, saying she wiggled too much. But they only allotted 20 minutes to clean the dog's teeth, which I think is insane. In any case, Lulu's been, I've been giving her puzzles, and we've been doing a routinely walk, and I just assume that she knows. When I ask her to leave at the kitchen, she leaves. So she's just being able to exercise her brain and be, validated for her smarts. So she's happy as a clam. The other day I was doing a reading and she was doing zoomies on my bed. I was watching her on the camera, and she pulled the blankets and was adjusting the blankets one night, putting her in almost like a pit bull does, where they pulled the blanket over them. It was so cute. All right. Let's talk about this week, and not just this week, this whole period of time, because this truly is the tee up, the period of time where our awarenesses and our intentions and our ability to just recognize the loop that is our brain is going to be so beneficial. As Neptune is currently direct at 29 degrees of Pisces and just literally planted itself through the whole retrograde at 29 degrees. This is so incredibly pivotal. This is a call to really looking at your life in a way that, where are you deceiving yourself? Where are you allowing others to have, power over you? The Pisces Virgo axis is an axis of self-undoing, of unconscious habits that we have that literally don't serve us. And so I think that this week and this period of time, especially because Saturn will go direct on the 10th, and Saturn is starting to come into conjunction again. And they're still, if you ask me, in conversation. They're only 4 degrees apart. They have been hovering around each other, and they're going to move back over the world axis. This world axis point is a point of a birthing. Something has been gestating, and now it's ready to be brought into the material. And this is a new sense of self. So as we revisit our histories, revisit our limitations, where we felt restriction, where we felt authority has dominion over us and holds us hostage to a version of ourselves we no longer resonate with, those awarenesses are not meant, well, I guess on some level they are meant to bring up something to wake you up a little bit. It's not fun, but at the same time, that wake up is what takes us into the 2.0 version, where we start to elevate the planets and Saturn starts to reward. When Saturn moves into Aries, that's a very military feel. Saturn, I think, is welcome in Aries. I know everybody says, oh, Mars goes fast, Saturn goes slow, but there's strategy here. And if Mars, which will happen next week, Mars is going to enter its exaltation in Capricorn. And if Mars is exalted in Capricorn, what Saturn rules, then there is a synergy here between the Saturn being like the general and Mars being, the implementer of the general's plans. So I say this because it's time to plan. And when I talk about planning, I'm not talking about trying to figure out how you're going to get where you're going to go right now. It's about starting to think, I want to feel more ease. I want to trust the divine more often. I want to look at something and say, okay, this is eroding away, or this is, fading into a new vibration. But what does this, what I would normally call a loss or call a drama, something sad, but it isn't. And this is the weird thing about Lulu. And there's a little funny, I feel very reconciled with my experience with Lucky. And before Lulu came in, those few weeks were torture in missing him, and having her come in, I can see the wisdom of spirit, how Lucky's job with me was finished. And now she's bringing in a whole new vibration and is just beginning her work with me. So I feel like that's part of the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, is to task us to look at where things are erosive, where it feels like things are slipping away, or where I feel like I'm in a fog. And is that offering me an opportunity to actually rewrite the story from a more intentional and, honestly, a happier place? And again, this story writing doesn't happen because you know how you're going to get there. It's how you feel on the way and the destination. So that's Neptune and Saturn. That's going to go on for months and months and months until, spring next year, as they slowly start to move away from each other in Aries. Venus is in Sagittarius right now, and she is in a growing T-square with the nodes all week long. This to me is, and she's going over the great attractor at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. So she's starting off on, the early side of the attractor, and she's moving onto the other side of it. I think she's going from 13 to 16 degrees this week, roughly. This is really important because I don't think this is about partnerships. I don't think this is about money. I don't think this is about resources. I think this is about my value. And I think it plays back to the Neptune-Saturn conjunction on the world axis as we're redefining and calibrating our sense of self and what we want to experience. How do we want to be that Aryan energy out in the world, brave, pioneering, literally redefining. We see Mars is in the last degrees of Sagittarius. It's going to hover over the galactic center. It will enter Capricorn on the 15th in exaltation. Okay, don't be too scared, Vortex Verified 888. The nodes going and becoming conjunct your natal nodes. Let's see. You're talking about which node? Is it your south node or is it your north node? Because this is really true. The first house is about the self. It's about your personality, your north node. That's not a bad thing then. That's actually going to excite you and compel you and inspire you to want to move forward with what you want and be more, maybe even frustrated with what's holding you back. And what's holding you back is the south node. So that means your south node is in Virgo. So you have a habit of self-criticism, of being stuck too much in a process or looking at things if you can't see it. It's not believable or it's not possible. If you don't know it, if you can't calculate it, analyze it, process it. So you're being asked to really let go of those systems and to stretch for the divinity within. 13 degrees is an interesting degree because in Christopher Witecki's system, the third degree is Jupiter. And when I didn't do his program, so this is just me Teriizing what I've heard. If the one represents the heart, okay, represents the courage to come from the heart, the Leo energy, the sun energy, then what your north node in Pisces is doing is asking for that expansion. Jupiter is a co-ruler of Pisces, so it's really about connecting to the divine. And the divine is the soul within that loves you more than your personality will believe, that knows that there are things that can take place that your personality will tell you, well, I don't know, who's done that before. So, and this all plays back to Venus. If you ask me, Venus all week on the Great Attractor, asking myself, what do I really believe about my value, about my ability to create the resources that I need? I'm really stuck on the idea that Mercury and Venus have no moons. This means there's an emotional deficit that gets overshadowed by the sun, and the sun representing the ego and from a human structure, right? So if the ego is out of whack and Venus is feeling like I need attention, I need the light to shine on me, she's going to be cranky. So I think that this is really important as the nodes are squaring her, for her to ask herself and for all of us to see, where is this? Sagittarius is actually my 8th house in Placidus. And I think this is really pivotal because the 8th house is about transformation, traumatic transformation, death and rebirth. And while it has a Sagittarian flair, there's this death and constant rebirth of my beliefs and expansion of them. The last thing I am is dogmatic. I never stay in the same place. I really kind of try to, even in my routines, I shake it up. So I really think that paying attention to this week, as this T-square creates a tension that's asking you to dig deeper. Okay. And as Mars is in those last degrees of Sagittarius, and within a few degrees of, like 1 to 2 degrees of 27 degrees of Sagittarius, this is really about being brave about the inspirations you're getting from spirit that don't feel like, it might feel silly. Like you might say to yourself, I'm just making that up. That's just in my head. Jupiter ruling your 9th house of Scorpio is cool because actually Jupiter rules the 9th house. So it gives that double Jupiterian dynamic to the Scorpio energy, which is digging deeper into that psychological gripping that arrests us on some level. People with a lot of money can sometimes have a strong emotional deficit because the money just glosses things over. And sometimes we get caught up in the sex. Sex is so good. It has power over us, even though we know we're in a toxic situation. So pay attention to that and not without judgment. Okay. So we hit Neptune and Saturn. We've talked about Venus. We've talked about Mars. Let's talk about this never-ending square between Jupiter and Chiron. Ay, ay, ay. This square is honestly feels like it barely moves at all because Chiron just seems obviously moving slowly over those last degrees of Aries, but it keeps retrograding over my ascendant, and I'm like, oh, please, can we just move the story forward? And Jupiter in Cancer, while it's exalted, there is this expansion of an awareness of family, an aware, Cancer is a history house as well. We don't really think of it that way, but it's the traditions of our home. It's the things you remember. It's even this time of year, the traditions of your holidays. So as Chiron is hovering in Aries and squaring Jupiter, Chiron is sort of focused on the wound of self. And Jupiter, on some level, is expanding the awareness of where that wound came from. That's what I think. And because Jupiter's retrograde, we're revisiting something, we're re-evaluating something. As happy as Lulu has made me, I'm still mourning Mike in a way that makes no sense to me, because every day at some point, I just seem to go into the grief of a widow. And it does, and again, it makes no sense whatsoever. But there's also a part of me that knows that Neptune Saturn conjunction is bringing something up for me. And maybe Mike represents love, intimate love, a time when I believed in something that maybe I don't believe in as much anymore. And so that's why this is so impactful. And that's why my eyes look a little funky today, because I cried my eyeballs out again last night. But my point here is that square is really demanding. Oh, Queen Leo, I'm so sorry. Bless your dog in heaven. That Chiron is really asking for transformation. And when we think about the idea that Neptune and Saturn are moving into the early degrees of Aries, and Chiron is moving in through the late degrees of Aries, there's this weird bookended feeling that as we extract the more higher vibrations of these two planets, Neptune and Saturn, as I look at my history and I use that as the building blocks for a whole new paradigm of what I want to experience, I say to Spirit first, this is how I feel when I'm lined up with what I want, rather than how am I going to get there, or focusing on what I don't have. So that feels like the square of Chiron is really asking for the depths, the real integration, the willingness to move outside of whatever the Cancerian energy is for you. Because while there's a fourth house dynamic to Cancer, if it's your eighth house, then there's a duality to that. There's a transformation of the power and control that the family traditions or the family beliefs have. And you have an ability to expand that and to bring more resources and money into your experience when you're aware of that. And then you use that as a launching pad for your abundance. Like it's like kind of like, when people who have been, songwriters, they write, broken heart songs. And while they didn't love having their heart broken or being cheated on, that song that they write, that then they publish, becomes a hit and makes them money. So there's somewhere where there's a opportunity to take your difficulties and bring abundance to them. So wherever this square is happening in your charts, this is something to pay attention to. And then to ask yourself on a deeper level, do I really believe blah, 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 blah? Because there's so many things. If Lulu had not come into my life, I would have, the sadness was really big. And for me, it was too soon. Like I thought in my head, it's too soon. But at the same time, it wasn't too soon. And I surrendered to that. And again, that's Cancer, the home, bringing something into my home. All right, let me go. Finally, Mercury is entering Sagittarius on the 12th. It's interesting when Mercury's in Sagittarius, because obviously it's the furthest away from its home. But then again, is it? Because Mercury loves to zip around and gather information. And when Mercury is in Sagittarius, I think this is really giving me an opportunity for integration, to understand where I get to look at the big picture and where I need to slow down and pick up the details. Because on an inherent level, both Jupiter and Mercury ruling the communication houses, they both have a deficit, because Mercury can move too quickly with the sound bites, and Jupiter can be so expansive it misses the details. So this is where the human infuses consciousness. So that's what Mercury entering Sagittarius gives us an opportunity to do. on some level at this moment in time. And I think it has a lot to do with revisiting. Mercury just came out of a retrograde. It's already been in these degrees of Sagittarius. So again, we're going back with more information to implement as Mercury heads towards the great attractor of 14 degrees of Sagittarius. Harnessing my mind's thoughts, knowing when my mind is anxious and what that anxiousness is inferring. I'm in my human space, I'm in my ego, but not in an elevated way. I also wanted to kind of bring up the moon cycles this week because the moon right now is in Cancer, and that's where the moon is the ruler. So it's very powerful. And then it's going to go into Leo. So throughout this week, I think there's going to be an awareness of my home life that already started, because the moon takes about 2 days to go through each sign. Then it's going to Leo. Am I having fun? Am I enjoying my life? Do I feel like a creator in my life? Then the moon goes into Virgo on the 10th and the 11th. And there's a somberness to that, almost a boomerang back to, oh my God, I need to think this through. I need to figure it out. And that's where I feel like an awareness right now would be so perfect, because that's when you say, no, I don't need to do that. Because as the moon goes over the south node, it's like, where is my mind in the loop that always says to me, I need to figure it out. I need to fix it. I need to perfect it. And maybe the perfection is not in the fixing of what you see, but the allowing of whatever the south node wants to excrete and give you a new canvas. Because the week ends with the moon in Libra. And I really think that this is about looking at life in balance. Looking at life in balance. What's going on? Is somebody moving? Is somebody going over to another stream? Anyway, okay, so that's what I just wanted to bring up. So I'm going to go into the readings now. Was there anything else I wanted to say? Nope, I think that's it. All right, here we go. With our intimate little group of 5. All right, let's start with our birthday people, our Sagittariuses. Everyone is shopping. I didn't even put decorations up this year. I'm just not, I don't have it. You adopted a dog that's already 13 years old. What a brave woman you are to do that, because that's like just buying a heartache around the corner. That's what I said to Lulu. You're my next heartbreak. All right, here we go. Happy birthday to everybody who has a birthday this week. And the card is the Hierophant. This has a couple of, there's quite a bit of different ways of interpreting this card. When you see it in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, it's that Pope sitting on his throne with the 2 monks in front of him. And here we get such a Taurus feel. I think this is about holding sacred space for the things that you want, even if they seem insurmountable. That's how that's coming across for me. Oh, wow, Sophia, the synchronicity of that is beautiful. I really do believe that I have the South Node and Venus. When Lulu came into my life and Lucky left, the South Node and Venus were hovering in Virgo, just almost at my natal Venus. Not an easy transit. None of my transits are easy. but they're all the kind that compel me to stop and try to look a little deeper into why would I agree to have these transits and go through this. 15 degrees Sag rising is, honestly holding sacred to your being aware of your mind and how much you have the ability to attract what you want in your life. Staying the course. I'm going to look and see where the detail comes in here, because for me, there's something about this that's playing to the the Jupiter Chiron square this week. Because there's a feeling of, as the holidays increase or get closer, the tensions increase, the memories of, we see these movies and commercials about happy families and everybody la la la, but we don't always experience that, So I think that's part of what this card is talking about, is holding sacred space and being committed to something that feels too big, or maybe even too much in the muggle world, but to those magical folks, it could be something different. So let's see. Our first angel is Mystique, and she's reversed. Vanessa is reversed. Francesca is reversed. And Xana is reversed. Okay. So this is a really, truly about Sagittarius likes to move, move, move. But this is sort of about a pause. Here we're stopping. There's no real movement here. There's a connection. I've thought many times that I was high when I picked my life path, but I think being out of body is like being high all the time, because everything seems a little bit easier and more rosy. And then you get here and you're like, what the hell? Whoa. I know. For a long time, I was like, God and I were going to have a conversation. And I was basically going to lecture God. And then I saw the shack and I realized that God would just sit there and stare at me with this sort of amused look on her face saying, you picked it, not me. You picked it, not me. Don't blame me. And that's the annoying part, because I could imagine that to be true. I'm like, let me just get it all over with at once. Oh, whoa. The cards are flying. Hold on. I see these. I have to, of course, take these. So there's the Queen upside down. There's the Novice upside down. All four. Focus card is straight up, and the High Priestess. Okay. Sagittarius, very much this week. I don't think there is stupid in heaven. I really don't. I would think there's high, but I don't think there's stupid. Okay. Sagittarius, Mystique is upside down. Don't charge ahead. You're not in a receiving mode. You've got to recalibrate. And this Aries conjunction is in your 5th house. What did I say that? Aries conjunction. This Neptune-Saturn conjunction in Aries is in your 5th house. Let me be more clear. This is my challenge with this frickin' transit. Something is not in balance. Do not try to move forward until you have slowed down enough, no matter what it is that you want, And I don't think it's about money. I think it's something about holding something sacred. Just call me. See, your guardian angels are in rehab right now, or you're in rehab right now. Because I wouldn't be surprised if a guardian angel might need a little rehab, but it's not like we think. Because let me back up. I need to be more serious. Sagittarius. Pause. You're not in reception mode somewhere. You're either running or moving too fast. Your ruling planet is retrograde, because Vanessa is about faith or fear, and here's this new beginning. It's not a good time to start a new beginning until you determine where you're standing, because if you're moving forward on fear, it's a big do-over, frankly. Francesca is upside down. That's talking about negativity, and there's the focus. You may not feel negative, but you may feel things are unrealistic or not practical. Again, we've got some planetary activity here that's kind of mucking the system up a little bit. And if it is about your love life or about your ability to open up that 5th house energy, I think it's important to realize that creativity has no expiration date. There are people who birth versions of themselves in all sorts of chapters of life, because if you're feeling vulnerable, it's because you're not connected. You're not connected to your inner knowing, to your inner truth. The high priestess could very much feel Jupiterian here, but she's upside down, and so is Xana. So you are revisiting something right now that is tasking you to look at what you're receiving, if it is really aligned to a deeper truth of what you want, and then to be aware of how you are presenting yourself to yourself. What is your self-talk? And sometimes the self-talk can be something as everything's working out for me. Thank you for giving me the wisdom to believe that. Because sometimes these times can feel a little bit like, are you kidding me? Lulu has snarked a couple things up off the street. She is like greased lightning. And I keep telling myself, I'm pretty sure that the God and the angels are not bringing this little child into my life to have her eat something and then die, Okay. As I'm looking at the comments right now, and I'm looking what Lucy's writing, if there is anything that you want to endeavor, okay, and I literally mean, like, if you want to go to karaoke night, if you have a great voice, start greasing the wheels. If you're funny and you're called to an open mic night, you don't have to think, oh, I'm a comedian, and freak yourself out. You just go out and say to Spirit, hey, I want to see how I land on these people. It'd be really fun to walk out and know that they enjoyed my shtick. Start stretching yourselves. These things aren't, to me right now, the transits aren't saying make life-altering changes. They're saying test the waters. Give yourself a little experience. The first time I ever did a reading in public, I swear to God, I was so sweaty and there was so much energy. My hair grew like this big. And I was so incredibly nervous. And yet Spirit ushered me through that experience so that it would be very positive and it would inspire me to want to do more and trust more. So do it. But be it first. Okay, let's go on to our Capricorns, our little baby goats. Everybody should just try something once. All right, Capricorn, your tarot card this week is dun 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 dun. The Hanged Man reversed. This is an energy of moving forward. This is an energy of no more sacrifice. Interesting. I want to say this because I think you're absolutely right. Every time I have memories of when I got things I've done out of my comfort zone that truly made me feel very powerful. And it makes me feel very blessed that I trust that, that I trust my bravery and I'm not going to fall off the cliff. I might tumble a little bit, but I'm not going to fall. Because I think when we start to experience some of the things that are conceptual, that's where the real, integration comes in, where we start to go, oh, wow, I did that once. Maybe I could do it again. And that's what I want to say for Capricorn, because this is no more self-sacrifice, no more pause, no more kind of giving into the emotional seas around you. Well, you could say it's comedy, or you could just say that what Lucy's doing is encouraging you to express yourself because you're an entertaining person. I'm just saying. All right, Capricorn, here we go. Our first angel is Astera, reach for the stars. Maya, schooling and education, but that's reversed. Fiona is reversed. That's about now that you've asked God and the angels for help. And then Teresa's about taking care of everybody else. All right. All right. Astera is being joined by the Joy card. Maya's being joined by the Letting Go card. Fiona's being joined by the Frog. And Merlin is joining Teresa. Okay, Capricorn, I want to say this to you in no uncertain terms. You know, while you will always have this very strong sense of responsibility, maybe even a little bit fear based, this is really, you've been working hard with Pluto going through your first house and redefining who you are. Now it's time to no longer sit in the wings, in a pause. This is about really reaching for the things that you want to experience, and you're a good builder. You know how to do it. So now this is about applying all of those characteristics and traits that you have to be tenacious and disciplined towards what it is you want. The letting go card and the schooling card is, to me, you've already been through your education. Now it's time to start to put it into practical application, meaning starting to really look at the correlation between, am I being and then doing? Am I falling into bad habits? Because you've had all the education you really need. You don't really need more education. Now you need to start to practice it, because Fiona says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. That's upside down. And I think what this is literally Spirit saying, you're as clean as you need to be. You don't need to clean every nook and cranny in the closet that is your crap closet, wherever you came from. As long as it's basically clean, or you're aware of what's in that closet, now you can move forward this way. Because Teresa's saying it's time to stop worrying about everyone else, that the real magic comes in this, in Merlin's energy, the justice and the balance, and now the alchemy. And the thing about Capricorn is that you really do have the ability to put something into the material. And I just noticed that the Hanged Man, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little crab in the corner. Okay. So to me, this is about no more crab crawl. I've never associated the Hanged Man with Cancer, but in this particular reading, with the water in the background and everything being a little bit tumultuous and the crab there, I feel like Spirit saying no more pauses. You don't need to dissect things anymore. Now it's time to start putting it into practical application, and that's where the magic begins. Okay, let's go on to our Aquarius's rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Lulu sleeps like a baby. I mean, literally, her eyes, if I rub her belly, her little eyes start to roll in her head and she falls asleep so trustingly. It's beautiful. Okay. Aquarius. Here we go. Aquarius rising. That's really about you expressing your genius. It's also Pluto going through your first house. Yesterday, Lulu, she does one of those things where the dogs throw the dirt, Lucky never did that, but she kicks the dirt with all four paws after she goes to the bathroom. And she got a twig stuck in one of her paws yesterday. And it was so cute because when she went to step down, obviously it didn't feel comfortable. And she scooted over to me like, will you help me? And I was like, and I just was like, I'm starting to see her coming around and looking at me and trusting me. It's so nice. All right, Aquarius, let's look at your tarot card. Now, I want to say this because remember, Aquarius, we're looking at our rising signs in Placidus, not whole sign. Because if you are a mid to late degree Aquarius rising, it's going to push a lot of that first house up into the 12th house. And I think that's so important because that is the house where you're not conscious of how you get in your own way, where there are habits on a soul level. And I think it's important because Pluto's will start to break that up. Pluto's in the early degrees of Aquarius. So anyone who is experiencing, all the fixed signs are experiencing it, but this is even more important because it's breaking up an old soul's pattern where you have been psychologically manipulated and controlled by sex, money, power, other people's opinions. Your tarot card is the Five of Swords. Okay, this is pretty tough because this is a card where there is a disagreement, there is a fight, there is it's very challenging energy. Often it is associated with the word contempt. I have contempt for you because the character in the front wins the battle. He wins the argument, but he does not win favor. So this is where Aquarius, being representing the sign of genius and not being the most emotional sign in the zodiac, you might have to be this week aware of how you present yourself, how you communicate. Remember, Mercury is moving into its detriment. It's moving into Sagittarius. So this is where you might be, because Five of Swords is the air sign. And I think this is about, communicating in a way that remembers that you're wanting to inspire and engage someone or engage a situation. Yes, he is African American. Both characters are actually. But there's a feeling of sorrow here. There's a feeling of I win, but I don't really win. It's like a begrudging win. So the other party is not really on board, as they say. And thank you for enjoying the sessions. I appreciate that. Okay, Aquarius, let's see where we're going here. I kind of doing it backwards here with this, but all right, the dog is upside down. The love card is upside down. The hawk is straight up and the butterfly is straight up. All right. Well, I think all the detriments are just really asking us to look at something from a completely different point of view. And because we're having to stretch ourselves, it feels hard. But if you think about any, Mercury is mutable, Sagittarius is mutable. So in detriment, it should slightly be easier than, say, a fixed sign would be. Because this is about, when I'm looking at the dog upside down, that's about loyalty. And I really don't think it's about unconditional love. I think there's something going on with Aquarius. It's about loyalty. You think about Aquarius rules rebellion, and you need to trust your comrades in a rebellion. There better be loyalty. Okay, there's Shanti upside down. There's no peace right now. Desiree is joining the love card, but she's upside down. The hawk is being joined by Aurora, but she's upside down. And then the butterfly is being joined by Vanessa, who's upside down. This is not going to be maybe the easiest week. Your co-ruling planet is Saturn. And I think that's important to remember because Uranus was only discovered in 1970 something. I think it was even 77. And so for years and years, Saturn and its more limiting dynamics were ruling the sign of the future. So here, this peace and this dog card feel like you may not be feeling a sense of peace in your relationships this week. You may get someone's agreement, or people may have taken their corners because while Desiree says conditions aren't favorable, this is upside down. And I think what it's saying is conditions are favorable to be looking at how I'm displaying my emotional body. I don't know that this is about love straight up as much as it's like, my dad used to say this thing to me, which pissed me off. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? And of course, my smart ass would always say, I want to be both. But there is a way to be able to communicate with somebody where you can express yourself and still honor the other person. And I think there's something going on here because you're not flying high right now. You are somehow descending into something that's a habitual thing, which is Saturn. Saturn and Neptune bringing up an old story, an old history that's been erosive to you up until now. And if we think about Aquarius, the second house for you is Pisces. So it has something to do with using your skills, using your voice. And I'm talking about how you're communicating. And this is about being able to say how you feel or what you think, but without alienating the other person. Because somewhere in this hawk, it's about actually pulling yourself up and seeing it from a bigger perspective. The 11 to me is ringing to the idea of the words. And I'm thinking to myself, Aquarius, when you're expressing yourself, would you respond favorably to however you're talking to the other party or however you're showing up? Because that's what the real task is. Vanessa is saying upside down, this is a faith or fear card. And then we have the butterfly. And I think this is about having faith in your true awareness and transformation. And even if we have old habits that we fall into, it doesn't mean that we are going to be, stuck in them. It's more about an awareness right now. So overall, I would say that there's the potential for arguments this week or things feeling out of balance or you sucking up something that feels out of balance. Meaning sometimes people say things or do things and I don't actually respond to it, but in my head, I'm having a whole freaking dialogue about it. So do your best, because otherwise I think you may end up finding yourself being right, but still sitting in the wrong position. Okay, on to our Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And you late degree Pisces, early Aries, this transit's now, again, it's extremely challenging. The first lap that they did right before they retrograded Neptune and Saturn was sort of the bubbling up, right? Then the retrograde really brought thinking about what's going on. How do I want my life to be? Wherever Pisces is in your chart, check that. Because for me, it's my 11th house and a little bit of my 12th house. So it's really about like rethinking my hopes and my dreams and what did I want, and also how I affiliate with my networks and my willingness to move into the future. Well, isn't that the greatest ninja? One that's silent and quiet, spends time alone. All the great warriors were solitary, if you think about it. And I think I think of warriors like Hercules, and Kung Fu, David Carradine. All right, here we go. Pisces. Let's look and see what your card is. Well, it just flew out of the deck. Love that. The victorious Chariot. Now, the Chariot is an interesting energy because in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, there is no movement whatsoever. The Chariot is cement, and it's representing really the moon and the stars are representing its protection. So this very much is indicating for my Pisces that you are going to be pulled into two directions this week somehow. And I would suggest that, what I think this infers is victory will come from you. This guy sort of looks like he's going to whip the horses or get them to move faster. But I actually think it's an opposite thing. It's a little bit where you slow down. And I want to resonate more with the traditional Rider-Waite deck because the moon in Cancer rules this card. The moon is the dominant picture in the Rider-Waite deck, and it represents Cancer, and Jupiter's in Cancer. So where I'm going with all of this is there's something about you, and this Cancer trines you. So this is favorable, but there's a pull, and your victory will come, if you want to call it a victory, because it feels more like internal, when you allow sort of pulling back and instead of habitually morphing into whatever's on the other side of you or whatever. That's the challenge of Pisces, is that even if you're not morphing, the other party can feel like you're mirroring them. And so they think they have your agreement when they may not. So that's the way I want to put it. Be mindful this week of your communications and that you're clear. You might have to repeat yourself. All right. Our first angel is Merlina upside down. Adriana is here leading you. Athena is upside down, and Layla is upside down. Yes, it can. And I don't even think they know that they catch it. It almost feels so. That's part of why that 12th house, you don't even know that you're being sucked in. Merlina is being joined by the king, and the Merlina is upside down. Adriana is being joined by the Baird, which is reversed. Athena is being joined by the Lady of the Lake, and they're both reversed. And Layla and the Death card are in the final position, both reversed. This is a week where Pisces is being tasked. The way you're going to find balance is through universal law, through sort of, hearing the Muggle mind, the Muggle communication. I say that's a reference to Harry Potter, to humans, and then really allowing a whole different dialogue to be given life into your head, because Merlina is removing confusion. Upside down, she's literally removing confusion. And the king here feels like universal law to me. It feels like, sometimes people will say things to me and they'll be like, I can't do this or I can't do that. I'll be out in the real world, right? And I know that you do whatever you believe. Whatever you believe is your experience. But am I going to school everyone that I meet? No. And that's Pisces, where I think you're being offered an opportunity to rewrite your history, to tell a new story. The Baird is the card of history. It's a card of music and storytelling. In some ways, it's your card because it has a poetic feel to it. It rules poetry and storytelling. Turn that story upside down, because Spirit is leading you to something new. Now, the challenge is that in the Pisces energy, unless it's, you've got some real dominant stuff in your natal chart, is more times than not more submissive, more soft. And this is the angel's advice, is that you're not asserting yourself and your deeper truth. But this is not about asserting yourself to somebody else. This is the self-assertion from the inside out. And the way to start to anchor that in is you on some level, Spirit is asking, you're not dying. There's no real death here. And when you spend time communing with nature, with the things that truly represent the universal ebb and flow. Because when we get out into nature, the circle of life is accepted more readily and more easily. When we're in the human highway, we're always trying to push on something. So I think that this week, Pisces is going to feel torn, between two versions of something. And in that duplicity, there's truth somewhere. And there's something that's getting an opportunity to be rewritten. But that happens not through actually rewriting something. It's about being aware of it and then allowing it to inspire you into the next action, and spending a little time quieting your mind and connecting with Spirit. All right, on to our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Well, quieting the mind, I always think that the quieting of the mind is best served with doing something that's mindless with the hands, knitting, crocheting, diamond art, crossword puzzles. Sometimes using a device is a good way of seeing how your focus can calm down. I always tell my highly mercurial people to do that, use their hands. All right, here we go. Aries, your card for the week is the Ace of Cups, but it's reversed. So this is interesting, because of all the signs, I think Aries has the hardest time feeling love. I really do, because there's so much resentment, focus, and individuality. If I don't do it, if I don't get it done, if I'm the hero, if I'm not the hero, no one will do it. I got to do it by myself. So this could be about potentially being aware of where you, well, let's see. I don't want to bag my Aries. All right, Aries, the first angel is Victory in the form of Omega. The second is Astera, but she's reversed. The third is Archangel Michael, but he's reversed. And Crystal is reversed. Okay. You know, Aries is the sign that holds resentment. You know, and what is resentment? It's focusing in on the past where you feel like someone's done you wrong. And anytime we're focused in on the past, if it's a good past and you're happy about it, focus all you like, because then you'll just bring more of that happiness in. But if you're pissed off and you're focusing in on what's done you dirty, it's no bueno. All right, here we go. Omega is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Your victory comes when you move into the future, Aries. Being an Aries rising, I know so much about resentment. I've spent a lot of years, you know, my Libra wanting fairness and balance, and my Aries being resentful that it isn't there. And the whole time my Taurus moon is not getting to feel love because it's fighting between these two oppositions when there's really no straight up right or wrong. Astera is inverted, and then there's the deer. If you want your dreams to come true, this is about gentleness and diplomacy, something that Mars doesn't do very well. Archangel Michael, upside down, is being joined by the eagle in the angel's advice. And in the final position, we have the letting go card joining Crystal. For my Aries, you know, you are experiencing the Chiron, the Chiron transit. And, if you're lucky enough to be a mid-born Aries, nothing's hitting you dead on yet, but you're still feeling the vibration in the room. So if you really want to feel a sense of victory and things moving forward, allowing for the rebirth, it's almost as saying to yourself, well, there's nothing I can really do about that because it's thwarting you from really reaching for the stars. And now is the time to be gentle and diplomatic with yourself. Sort of be, kind of like, if there was a fire, I'd put it out, but that fire is still it's dead. It's cold. I can't get it going. And when I say fire, I mean that like whatever memory has stirred something that makes you feel a burning sensation. Because the angels, when I look at the eagle, I feel like this is the integrity. Archangel Michael talks about courage and the courage to move into something. And Aries, with having Chiron and then Saturn and Neptune hovering those early degrees, revisiting your history could just make you pissed off all over again and feeling like you've never been loved and you always have to do things on your own. But I don't know that that's necessarily true, because this letting go card is never about letting go. It's about an integration. And Crystal's saying have faith and hope there's more on the horizon. But I tend to think that there are things that aren't just on the horizon. There are things that are happening right now that are opening up your world, but you can't see it because you're too focused on something from the past or a habitual feeling, and it can easily get triggered, like I never win at this, or I never get this, and if that is a story, then you get to be aware of, if it never happens, you are the common denominator. What is my belief? And then the awareness of that belief will start to open up the space for you. All right, let's go on to our Taurus. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Taurus moon. Yeah, I looked at when Lulu was born, or when Lulu's person died in October 4th, 2024. I think Venus was conjunct my moon in Taurus. And I can't help but think that that's just really cosmically weird that her previous owner would die on the exact day that Lucky died a year prior. That's so weird. 10-4, that info. Oh my God, look at that. 10-4, that's confirmation. Like, wasn't that what they say over the walkie-talkie in the police car? Oh God. Good job, Lucy. Yeah, he died on 10-4. I just feel like I honestly sometimes have an out-of-body experience with the way my life has changed in the last few months. I don't even know me. All right, Taurus. The King of Swords. This is really an interesting card because this is the Aquarius energy, right? And there's a feeling of, and I don't want to bag my Aquariuses, but Aquarius is probably one of the most least emotional signs because it's very much rules like the future and looking at the bigger picture and thinking of the collective. And I think that might be what's going on here, is that Spirit is encouraging you to take a more unemotional approach to something. And it might be how you view something. Oh, yeah, the CB radio. Queen Leo, you're so funny. Yeah, they can be a little cold. They're the computers of the Zodiac. They can be. I don't think they're cold to their own emotions, but they can be a little cold to other people's emotions. But it also depends on the chart, you know. Sometimes the Aquarian energy balances out a lot of mushy water, which is good. Okay. All right, Taurus, let's see what the angels have to say. Francesca, what do you visualize right now? Negativity will block your progress, but she's upside down. Serafina is about happy families, but she's upside down. Akasha is the teacher, but she's upside down. And Azure is saying your desired outcome will happen, and she's straight up. I bet you this is about, Uranus is going through Taurus at the late degrees. Chiron will move into Taurus next year. So early born Tauruses will feel the conjunction plus the square to Pluto. Oh boy, that's going to be fun. This is why we need to prepare now, so we can really extract the higher vibrations of these planets. Otherwise, it's going to be a little rough. I got to say, I feel sorry for unconscious people. I really do, because things are going to hit them in a way that's like feels blindsiding. All right, Francesca says, do you visualize negativity? But she's upside down. So this would not be about visualizing negativity, but there will be something that's blocking. And if you're looking too far ahead or into your history, I think restriction is upside down. For some reason, this is hitting me that Taurus is revisiting some old stories. Cancer sextiles the Taurus energy. So there must be something going on where Spirit is asking you to take aim at something, but you have to be slightly emotionally disconnected from where you've been or from what Taurus just does not like to change. Taurus, would almost stay in a negative situation just because there's a familiarity to it. And when I look at this, it feels almost like Taurus is breaking loose of that, because I'm not looking at things negatively and I'm not feeling restriction. But then we have this happy family card upside down, being joined by the Earth Fairy. This is something where, okay, I need to pull the whole spread. The choice card with Akasha, the teacher, and Azure. All right. I want to say this. If indeed, for some reason, my Taurus moon rising sun has not felt the reward, the dispensing of your dreams coming true, if you feel like you're kind of stuck, it's time to continue to look to the future. The opportunity and or the obstacle is somehow you're kind of stuck somewhere. You're kind of, you've put something in the earth and you've started to believe it. So maybe you're believing, okay, I'm not really going to have that happy family, or my life is more work than it is fun. And I think that's something about telling a new story, because the spiritual teachings is upside down and the mystery card is here. We have to participate in our co-creation. We have readings, we look at our charts. It's not happening to us. It's happening with us, in concert with us, in tandem with us. Our thoughts, our emotions, how we roll in that respect is helping to co-create. If we forget that and we fall into those old Taurian habits of reviewing my history and keeping my voice quiet, it's going to feel restricting. Because Azure is saying your desired outcome will happen now and in the near future. And this is a timing card, the Raven. It's also a card where we see the skull. And whatever it is that Taurus has experienced, it's time to look to the future. It happened, it's done, it's not going to change at this point, and it's just holding you back. If for some reason, you're putting too much emphasis on it. Welcome, Kikila. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go on to my Gemini's rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Hi, Lou. How you doing, girly? All right. Let's pull our tarot card for the week for our Geminis. For those who have just entered the room, I start with the birthday month, and then I work my way around the zodiac. And we are on Gemini right now. I like to look at the chart in Placidus, honestly, your personal charts, because if most of your first house is pushed into the 12th house, that's significant in how you view yourself or don't see yourself. Okay. Gemini, your tarot card for the week is the Ace of Wands, but it's inverted. This would be a lack of inspiration on some level. This would be a lack of fire. Let's see where we're going. She's adopted a Floridian accent. I know. Let's see where we're going. Because the fire, may not be so challenging. There's the Rosetta, which is about children. We have Opal, which is also about children, but this one is inverted. We have Chantal, which is about love and the angel's advice. And then finally, we have Oceana. Oceana's reversed, by the way. Rosetta is being joined by the Risk card. Opal's being joined by the Frog is upside down. Both of them are. Chantal's being joined by the Butterfly, which is upside down. And Oceana is being joined by the Birth and Rebirth card. Okay, so for my Geminis, this is when I see Rosetta, I really very much, while it's about parenting and teaching children, working with children, I really think that this is about the inner child. I think this is about, acknowledging the inner child, no matter how old you are on the outside, because what you have not done is risk considering that inner child. You've been too grown up lately. You've been a grown up. That's why there's no fire. There's no creative spark. There's no fun. This Ace of Wands is going to represent the fire signs. And the fire signs are all about, sparking something exciting. Because in the obstacle of the opportunity is there's this frog. I'm not leapfrogging. I don't believe I'm a child of God right now. I might be wondering if God's even there. This could be a little bit of a crisis of faith. I think it is a little bit. Because in the angel's advice is Chantal, and then the butterfly is upside down. And I'm wondering if Gemini isn't just feeling a little worn out, overthinking, looking at the possibilities, the playbook, the strategies. Mercury was retrograding all the way back into psychological Scorpio last week before it went direct. Maybe it was the week before, but it's been traveling through that sign. Because here, Oceana and the rebirth and birth and rebirth card are both upside down. And I think what Spirit is saying is that you're in your brain. You're in your thoughts, you're in your processes, your analysis, your contemplation, back and forth. And now Spirit's like, the only way out is to risk trusting that you're a child of God, focusing in on God's divine love and connecting emotionally, moving towards your divine life's purpose. And I want to offer this because, You know, oftentimes we don't recognize that sometimes when we walk through a real scary chapter of life and we are triumphant, it changes not only us, but it changes the environment around us. And I think that that's what spirit is saying, because this upside down wand could be, it's a tree, and it's a cherry blossom tree, it looks like to me. There's hummingbirds here, which infer to me a 2-year process of some kind. And while I see these sparkly lights there, they're coming to me like, I can see how they form like almost cloud, but then there's also hearts within it. So I feel like for my Geminis, you're way too in your head. You're way too thinking, processing information, maybe even short bits of information that have left you hanging on some level. And now you've got to dig deeper into that inspired soul. All right, spirit, give me a freaking sign so that I can anchor in, because I'm having trouble. This is the thing too. When you design a chart from a soul's perspective, your team knows what you're up against. So they're not expecting you to be perfect, okay? Or even good at it. So if you are overthinking, if you are being too Geminian, going back and forth and contemplating all the risks that don't serve you, ask spirit to help you. Chop, chop, meaning right now, on delay. Motivate, as my dad used to say. That was his motivate, was his big word. I don't know, big word, but that meant he meant get your ass in gear. Okay, on to our Cancer's rising moon, sun, and stelliums. You do, my dear. You absolutely get up and soldier on every single day. It's not easy. I feel literally, it feels like we're all walking through like almost like a headwind, It's like, oh. All right, Cancer, let's see what's happening. All right. We have the world card inverted, reversed. When we see the world, there's a conclusion of some kind. There's some sort of, we can rest. The fool has gone through the major arcana and understands the muggle mind, understands how the world has its rhythm and its universal laws. Here, something's not complete in reverse. Somewhere we're not understanding the rhythms, or we're not extracting the rewards. This is Saturn in an elevated position, but reversed, something's being thwarted. Our first angel is Mystique, but she's reversed. Then we have Victory in the form of Omega. That's 2 unicorns coming out. We have Shanti, the angel of peace, and then we have Ray. I wonder if Cancers, Cancer rules home and hearth. It's the holidays. I'm wondering if my Cancers aren't actually having a little bit of a challenge during this holiday season. Because Mystique upside down would be, don't charge ahead. And that resonates with the world being upside down. Something's not ending. There's no need to run ahead. Hold back a little bit. Maybe we need to observe, or to adopt a peaceful point of view by connecting with a bigger part of ourselves. Okay, the communications card is upside down, joining Mystique. The Victory card is being joined by the Joy card, and that's upside down. We have the Dragon joining Shanti, but the Dragon is upside down. And in the final position, we have the Wasp joining Ray. Okay, for my Cancers, this might just be a time when you're feeling a little bit overdone. Again, Cancer rules the mother. Traditionally, we think of mom in the kitchen cooking, making the pumpkin pies. Dad carves the turkey, mom makes the turkey. Somewhere here, I feel that Cancer feels challenged. I feel like there's something you want to express, something that you thought would work out one way, but it hasn't shown up yet. And you're kind of, I think you're just like my mom used to say, I'm at the end of my rope. Because Mystique is about a pause and the communication card is upside down. And I feel like I don't want to tell my cancers not to communicate, but I also feel like I'm trying to tell you don't become a pressure cooker. Don't stuff something so long that you know, that you come out of more spiky or even potentially disempowered, because Omega is victory, but the joy card is upside down. So this is one of those things where you're picking, you have to kind of consider how much you need outward validation versus kind of letting an inner process happen, because you're not in a powerful position right now. And you don't have, I don't know if you're feeling strong sense of peace right now. I mean, we're looking at Omega and Shanti offering victory through peace, but then we have the joy card and the power card upside down. So I need to assess something. I need to look a little deeper into how I'm processing something emotionally, because you're not connecting to spirit. Your power is a little bit your power. It's like, Abraham says that we're like toasters, right? If we don't plug into the electricity in the wall, which is spirit, we can't make toast, even though we're capable of it. And that's what's happening here for my cancers. This could potentially feel a little stingy. You could feel a little bit, you could have a little bubble of something going on here where you're like, I've worked my ass off. I've tried to make everything beautiful for everybody, and everybody's just traipsing in and out and not caring or validating me in some way. And I think Cancer, back off, take care of you a little, put you on the front burner, and that might help balance things out a little bit. Yes, we all have boring ways of speaking here on the West Coast. We're all just plain Janes. We have no fun accents. But I use fun words, like I say ring instead of call. I say shallot instead of shallot. And I feel like Gordon Ramsay whenever I say it. Shallot. Okay, on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. So you can do a good Australian accent, or is it just because people don't know the difference between Australian, South African, New Zealand, English? Or did you just walk around saying, good day, mate, good day, mate? I'm sorry, that wasn't funny. All right, Leo, let's look at your tarot card. The Two of Wands, upside down. Okay. The Two of Wands is a card of the future, looking to the future, dreaming, planning, and I love the disco ball in this particular deck. So something's going on where you're not feeling, and maybe that Pluto squares or Pluto opposition is getting you. Let's see where we're going, because if you're not looking to the future, you could be looking to the past. Water. Oh, water. Oh, water. You say water. Bring me a glass of water, please. Crikey. Oh, that's a good one too. Well, you just watch, what is it? Crikey, the Irwins, whatever, their zoo show, and you just listen to their accents. Practice. All right, Leo, let's see where we're going. Shanti is the angel of peace. We have Archangel Gabriel about communications. Esther is saying to reach for the stars. And then Fiona is saying that you're not connecting with spirit. And I want to offer this because often lately when I say spirit, and maybe this is my own little rocky road I've been on this year, but I feel like connecting with the bigger part of my soul. Like, I'm not even looking to my guides right now. I'm not even looking to God, Jesus. I'm like, what is my soul? What is the bigger part of me? What was this whole purpose of this? Why why did I plan this? What's the extraction? you know? And that's what it looks like, because Leo's not looking to the future. And Spirit is saying we need to have a sense of peace. And to know that the road ahead is going to be smoother. That we have the communication, so talking peace, thinking peace. And then we have communications in the form of Archangel Gabriel, but the Lady of the Lake is upside down. So somewhere you must be feeling disconnected from your deeper truth, or maybe even you're not feeling necessarily respected by other people in the community, because Archangel Gabriel can rule the community. We have Astera, which is about reaching for the stars through your dreams and desires, and then the butterfly. And then we have the disruption card. All right, this is what I want to say for my Leos. Leo rules fun. It rules games. It rules risks and gambles. It rules, this very, the sun rules the zodiac. And for me right now, I guess what I'm trying to say is that this feels as if Leo's not looking to their future clearly enough. You're not communicating to yourself about the peaceful road that's potentially ahead, that, there is things that you want and you desire, but you're ignoring that deeper truth somehow, which is thwarting your ability to see where you're moving in the future. Astera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. The butterfly is indicating a gestation period, where somewhere as you go and you reach for a bigger picture of what you want, that then we're going in and we're starting the creation process. But the creation process comes through a dark period. That's where I'm seeing that caterpillar. And that's why maybe even to yourself, your truth is pummeled. Maybe you can't even see your own truth because you've been feeling so beat up. Because this disruption card is referring to your not connecting to spirit. Now, I'm just going to use Lulu as an example. I never in a million years would have wanted to lose Lucky. I loved Lucky dearly, and I thought we had a really great relationship. But because he was my first dog, I had no frame of reference, and he wasn't a very affectionate dog. He was not, he didn't wag his tail. He didn't jump up on me. He didn't lick my face. He didn't want to sit next to me. And all of those things are what Lulu likes to do. And I have so much joy from that. And so somewhere I'm looking at Leo and I'm thinking, you might be focused in on what was, but if you can look to the future, there could be something so much more aligned to what you want to experience. And if you could connect with spirit when, about helping you to do that, it would be helpful to you overall. It doesn't feel like an easy week for you, to be honest. All right, on to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I really believe that words have a vibration, and that, we look up synonyms, and words that mean similar things, but at the same time, each word has a vibration that it sends out into the universe. So I'm pretty particular about the words I use, even when I'm mad. Okay, Virgo, here we go. Okay, we're getting unstuck somewhere. This is very good. When we see the Four of Pentacles upside down, something's opening up. Where you've been stuck, you shouldn't be stuck anymore. Let's look and see. There's Shanti, the angel of peace. There's Fiona, now that you've asked God and the angels for help. There's Rosetta. And there is Isaiah. Well, this is the beginning of something nice for the Virgos. How you doing, girly? By the way, last week, remember when Lulu had that whole moment when she supposedly reverse sneezed? She didn't reverse sneeze. She threw up. She can't have beef. It was too rich for her. And then she got some throw up stuck in her throat or in her nose. That's what happened. All right, Virgo, Merlin is joining Shanti. That's beautiful. Alchemy, justice, and balance comes through peace and tranquility. The spider is joining Fiona. Something's happening with your network. Rosetta's being joined by the goblin upside down. And Isaiah's being joined by the novice upside down. All right, this is what I want to say for my Virgos. Something is opening up. Something's loosening up. Something is actually like the Four of Pentacles is where the guy has the resources, but he's holding too tightly onto them. So there's this almost Midas feeling where everything he touches turns to gold, but it turns to gold in a hard way. Here, Shanti is saying, balance and justice come through your ability to feel peaceful, to feel tranquil, to surrender on some level. Your connection with spirit will start to bring opportunities and people into your experience. Now that you've asked God and the angels for help, don't micromanage spirit. It's time to be a child and to put your ego aside. This is the hard thing for Virgo because they want to know where they're going. They want to know how they're getting there. They want to know what to pack. Is it going to be warm weather? Is it going to be cold weather? This is about unpacking your control, your perfectionism, your need to know. Because Isaiah is telling that you're being protected. But this new beginning is not quite on the docket yet. We need to align first to the feeling of it, the peace, the justice, the alchemy. I was listening to, on my YouTube, I always listen to some kind of meditation music, either, first thing in the morning or at night as I fall asleep. And Louise Hay's been coming up lately. And something came up about her body, and because Virgo rules health. And she was literally talking to her cells and being grateful to her cells for the jobs that they do in her body. And, that woman lived to be well into her 90s, as I recall. So I think, Virgo, that you will be unstuck when you start to connect to your body, to the joy of your body, the honoring of your body, not just what you're putting in it, but how you're talking to it and how you're running it. Are you running it like, are you running it too hard? Are you giving it back to your body? And I really do think that there is something about that ego card being upside down. This is surrender. It's not like I need to worry about my ego. It's like, now is not my time to run the ship. I got to turn it over to God and in some ways to my soul and the bigger picture of what my soul chose when it knew I would walk through this period of time. Virgo, the other thing here too is that the mind, while we don't see a lot of air cards right now, being mindful of how much your mind runs scenarios and whether those scenarios actually are the outcome you want or they're trying to thwart a problem. Being aware of that will help this new beginning and you feeling protected. All right, let's go on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Then we will do Scorpio and we will be done for the day. Shh, don't tell anybody. Pardon me. All right, Libra, let's see what's going on. All right, Libra. Oh, your tarot card is the Ace of Wands, but this time it's straight up. So that's fun. Some spark of creativity, fire, some sort of passion, something fun. Libra should, well, that's part of, the thing that's funny is that what we don't recognize on a human level is when we choose to be a Libra rising, or as I'm a Libra sun, we are choosing to have an experience of balance. We haven't conquered balance. We're not, balance connoisseurs or experts. No, probably the opposite. Yes, exactly. I love that. I love being in denial because, it never really goes anywhere. It always rears its little head. You've been in denial. I don't know. Maybe I'm in denial about certain things like aging, and there'll be plenty of money. I keep saying I'm going to save more money, but I just buy stupid shit that I don't need. Okay. Libra, caution is warranted. Look deeper into a situation, per Bridget. Connect with spirit. That's where your power lies. Desiree is saying conditions aren't favorable either. Yay. And there's Rosetta again. Oh boy. Okay. Holy scamoli. This looks a little annoying. I'm an Aries rising and it's all over me. And my Taurus moon. Are you kidding me? You can see me coming a mile away. I walk fast. I walk with self-assurance. I'm not a good candidate for a mugging. Thank God. Okay, Libra, Bridget is saying to look deeper into your foundation and taking care of your health this week. The Earth Fairy is about groundings. It's about physical health, and it is about foundations. Now, I don't want to say that you're not feeling well, but sometimes during the holidays, we do a lot of candy. We do a lot of sweets, and we give ourselves sort of a get out of jail free card. Oh, I'll be good in January. But this is what I want to say for my Libras. When you eat sugar, for everybody, your immune system drops for the next 6 hours. It's compromised. So be mindful if you're around little germy people or in large crowds, because here, this is about nourishment. I think that you need to be more nourished. I know I do, to be honest with you. I've been eating things, but I don't know how many nutrients are in the things I've been eating. I need to take my good old supplements. Desiree is saying to look deeper into a birth and a rebirth. This is an interesting thing because I think here, when I look at this, I feel like this is about Libra's balance comes from taking care of themselves physically. Now, we think that's food, but it could also be rest. It can be peace of mind. It can be Calgon, take me away. Because Rosetta is a card of children. And then I think this is the inner child. And then there's a lack of focus. So here we go. This time of year. The partnership signs, Cancer is one of them, Libra is one of them, Pisces is one of them. You can be overly stimulated into the outside world and what you're providing for others, and there can be a lack of balance. So it's time to put a little spark into what is important for you, and maybe that's rest. Maybe it's making sure that you do your celery juice. Maybe it's making sure that you get your workout. Maybe it's making sure that you carve out any time for yourself, because this feels a little like you're burning the candle at both ends, and you can run into a little bit of a okay. Yeah, that's it for my Libras for today. On to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I want to just say this as I'm going on to Scorpio. Libra has to be a little careful because you are very loving, but you also can be very passive aggressive. I'm not personally passive aggressive. I'm just aggressive. But yeah, because this spread feels a little frustrating. It feels a little bit like, your sense of obligation to others is thwarting something about your own individuality, which is then making you feel pinched because maybe people aren't as appreciative or acknowledging you in some way. Okay, you got to acknowledge yourself first. All right, here we go. On to our final sign of the day, who I think is the most intuitive sign of the zodiac, are Scorpios, because they are the perfect combination of water and power. Oh, the King of Pentacles. This is interesting. It's a Taurus energy, and it's for my Scorpios. This is really about, this guy knows where he's driving himself. He is, he's steady. He is willing to go the journey and to be vigilant about where he wants to go. Now, it's interesting in this deck because he's driving a boat. We don't usually think of the King of Pentacles as being on water, but this could infer for our Scorpios that this is about grounding your emotional body and driving your emotional body with more intention and more awareness. He's focused. I love this deck actually a lot. Because I see the water, I see the mountains, I see there's somewhat treacherous terrain, but when I'm aware, then I can ground things and I can be the master of my own physical experience. All right. We have Caressa. You're at the end of a life cycle. Well, that's not surprising because, there is the square to Scorpio and Taurus that's coming from Pluto. We have Merlina in the opportunity of the obstacle. We have Archangel Michael and the angel's advice. And then finally, we have Seraphina. This almost feels very similar to the first spread. Same cards, but this time they're all straight up. By the end of the week, your co-ruling planet will be in its exaltation in Capricorn, and that might have something to do with, like, the end of a cycle could be actually the end of unsureness or the end of fog, and now being more clear. Caressa is being joined by the cow, nourishment, abundance, asking and receiving. Merlina is being joined by the death card. The death card is reversed, so there's some sort of, you're no longer confused. You know what you want. So now it's time to go get it. Archangel Michael is being joined by the swan. Be mindful of trusting your psychic gifts. And sometimes this is the challenge of Scorpio. It's such a powerful sign. It can almost move too fast or in some ways be too fixed. So know that you are being on some level protected by Archangel Michael, but continue to implement your spiritual awarenesses in what you're endeavoring and wherever you're driving yourself to. Because the Archangel, Seraphina is about happy families, about things lightening up. And the Raven is saying that this feeling, and I think might be the committee in your head, your own Herman's Head or your own movie Inside Out. Because when I look at this for my Scorpios, I feel if there was some fog, if there was some things that you felt were tripping you up, now you have an awareness, and now you're willing to close a chapter. And it may not be a chapter in the material as much as it's a chapter in the emotional. I'm no longer going to be be vulnerable to that or be victim to something, because the cow is about asking and receiving. So you could be working more with spirit and then driving yourself through inspired actions. And that's why Merlina is, you're no longer confused, but you're not in crisis. That's why the death card is here. And you just have to be continually mindful of your transformation. I want to offer this. I have Mercury in Scorpio, and I am so used to doing this work now that the practices I put in place when I was new, like meditating for 30 minutes. Now, sometimes I only meditate for 10 minutes. I too could help to implement the structures that keep me connected, because that connection is where my abundance comes in the material world. So I think you're on your way. I feel like the committee in your head is getting maybe a little calmer, or will continue to get more calm as you drive the bus very groundedly towards where you want to go. Emotionally, I want to feel flow. I want to feel a sense of ease. I want to feel a sense of acceptance. These words sound very broad, but they bring in a flow of energy that you can't imagine, and sometimes better than you would be able to imagine. Okay, that's it for this week. We are inching closer and closer to being over with 2025. And I personally, I'm looking forward to the door closing. So thank you, Joanne. I appreciate you saying that. I hope this was helpful for everybody. I love you all. Be gentle with yourself during these times because they truly are, those of us alive right now are braver than you realize. And you're brave in your willingness to stand here on this planet during these times. That's all. That's all. Just breathe and take it in and be aware and make choices that align to you. All right, everybody. I love you. I'll see you next week. Small Wildflowers will be having. Are you doing your treatment tomorrow morning? I was hoping they would give you a break for the holidays so that you could feel good on Christmas. Is tomorrow a icky day? Kind of waiting for a response. I'm saying prayers for you. All right, everybody, that's it. We will see you next week. Love and peace to you all. Oh, your liver is angry. Okay, well, good. At least you'll get a break. The liver is where anger is carried, by the way, energetically, if you didn't know that. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. And Small, I'll give you a call this week since you're not going to be poisoned, and we can talk about how to make your liver happy. All right, everybody. See you soon.